7-2 loss. I mean, a true rookie, not the kind of rookie that is out one whole year and then comes back and plays. Simmons went 0 for 4 from the field and finished with 1 point. So, of course, the internet's going to troll. Photoshopping Simmons' head on the famous Wilt Chamberlain 100-point game picture with a slight tweak to the points total. I thought this was hilarious.
Man, that ain't right to do the young man like this. Go ahead, Steve.
That shooting's important.
I mean, it was also for him the turnovers last night. Like, it was the whole game, but the 1 point. 1 point's worse than 0, right?
Not much.
I just feel like it looks worse in the box score than 0, because like years later when if you see a guy at 0, you're like, oh, maybe he hurt his shoulder, maybe there was something he couldn't take a shot. When he has 1 point, you're like, oh, so I don't know. I just feel like 1 point looks worse than 0. You think I'm crazy?
For the smartest guy on sports television, 1 is better than 0.
No,
in what world is it?
I just think it looks worse. When you're looking at a box score, a lot of guys have 0s. Only like a guy stands out with just 1.
Yeah, there's not a lot of guys with 30 minutes playing with 0.
That is a good point.
Oh, okay.
I understand that. Either way, that's a great Photoshop. Whoever put that together. Well done by them.
Time now for
Learn to shoot.
Stories to start your morning. Start with Tiger Woods. Haven't talked about him in a beat. Tiger made his return to Quail Hollow yesterday for the first time since 2012. Tiger finished round 1 of the Wells Fargo Championship with an even par 71, 6 shots off the lead. CC, what do you think? You think we'll see Tiger in contention on Sunday?
We'd like to. This golf course is awful tough. It's not one of his favorites. It's a popular tournament. It's in Charlotte, North Carolina. It's a golf course I played myself, played in the Pro-Am a number of years ago. Tiger, what he didn't have, hit his driver well, hit his irons well. He's got a new set of tailor-made irons. He had his woods tailor-made. Now he's got his whole bag matched up now with tailor-made products. Couldn't putt the ball. Couldn't get shortcuts. Couldn't putt the ball. He should have. He hit the ball well enough. He should have been 2 or 3 under par.
There's 2 of the final 4 holes he had an opportunity for birdie and blew it with a bad putt. And he had a 15-footer for a birdie that ended up as a 3-putt bogey. Like, this is what we have seen with Tiger is it's yet to put it all together in one awesome round. Yesterday was, outside of putting, about as well as we've seen him play on this comeback. Earlier in the comeback, it was the putting had been saving him and so the iron and the woods were good, but the putting just wasn't there yesterday.
Hey, the Knicks have reportedly hired David Fizdale to be their 11th head coach. 11th head coach since the 2001-2002 season. Fizdale will look to turn around a Knicks team that went 29-53 last year. Nick, Fizz wanted this job, waited for the offer. How much of an uphill climb does he have ahead of him now?
Listen, they have the most important thing to have when you take a job, a superstar, or a potential superstar, I should say. Kristaps isn't there yet, but the trajectory, assuming he comes back healthy, is that of a superstar. Also, the Knicks, they have needed for quite some time a really good coach. I think Fizz is a really good coach. I think Fizz learned under the right people in Miami. I think Fizz got a short end of the stick in Memphis. I think he will do a good job there. I think the Knicks I think this is better than hiring Mark Jackson or Jeff Van Gundy. I think they hired the right guy. The question is, will they be able to get someone to pair up with Kristaps in what is all of a sudden a very competitive Eastern Conference?
Yeah, I'm excited about what the Knicks management did with David Fizdale. But also now, let's pump the brakes. Let's just be a little patient. Because their star player they do have a star in Porzingis.
No.
He's out. And he might miss a great portion of the 2019 season. Now, might not even come back, depending on how the team is doing. They have to be able to get another star, but you need someone like Fizdale to be able to get that started. And I believe he has a lot of respect with the players and them trying to draw a big-time free agent.
Absolutely.
Plus, he's got a great nickname, so.
Yeah, absolutely. That's correct as well.
Fizz. Finally, the Cavs took down the Raptors last night to go up 2-0 in this series. LeBron James looked unstoppable, finishing with 43 points, 14 assists. And according to LeBron, Raptors head coach Dwayne Casey, who was the defensive guru when the Dallas Mavericks beat LeBron's Heat in 2011 finals, might be the reason why. Listen.
I wasn't that good of a player in that series. I wasn't a complete basketball player. Dwayne Casey drew up a game plan against me in that 11 series in the finals when I played Dallas to take away things that I was very good at and to try to make me do things that I wasn't very good at. So he's part of the reason why I am who I am today.
Interesting. Haven't heard that before. CeCe, what were your reactions to these comments?
I think it's awesome. You need people like Casey to come in your path so that you are pushed to a level. And I like the fact that LeBron is so aware.
Yeah.
He's aware of where he was. He's aware of who he is. He's aware of what he needs to do. And he's improved his game at all aspects. You go back to high school. You sitting there, he's doing a high school interview on ESPN.
Yeah.
They asked him, what do you need to work on? Oh, I need to work on my jump shot. I got to make sure that my jumper is a lot better, at the next level. So he has done this maintenance on his game. And I love the fact that he's not walking away from the low point in his career. And even though he had that great game last night, he realized how he got to that point. And it was going through that low moment that he had that awful series against the Dallas Mavericks in the finals.
It was a great question, and it was a thoughtful, great answer, because a lot of people look at LeBron's career as if the fork in the road was the decision to go to Miami. I've never thought that. I've thought, at least with hindsight, the fork in the road was that Dallas series once he was in Miami. Because when he walked off the court after the Dallas coaching staff, as he talks about it there, made him do things he was not comfortable doing and not yet equipped to do. Up to that point in his career, he had won 2 MVPs. He'd had the 48 special game against Detroit. He was already considered the best basketball player in the world. But he had glaring holes in his game. He had, against the coach's wishes, his own coaches, refused to learn how to post up. He had not gotten comfortable doing the things that now he is so great at. And when he walked off the court from that moment forward, and I've said this time and again on this show, I believe what he's put together is the greatest 7-year stretch, consecutive years, in the history of the sport. Since he walked off the court in that series, we talked about it last week, he's played 13 elimination games. He's 10-3 with 12 30-point games. The one non-30-point game was a triple-double in Game 7 of the finals. He has added a new wrinkle to his game every single year. He is somehow in better shape now than he ever was, and it's about that series. I think LeBron James, maybe his statistical or his finals record is better if they win that series against the Mavs, but I don't think he's a better player. I think it's better. It was better for LeBron to have that moment.
I disagree with you, because he was going to have some other moments. LeBron has always been about improving. It was going to be that moment, or it was going to be another moment, because there was other moments that improved his game. Even after they won the championship, that's when he went to the low post. It wasn't out of defeat. The greatest players, they always challenge themselves, and they utilize defeat as one of the challenges. But they don't have to have defeat in their life to be able to do that. That's what makes them great.
Go ahead, Jenna.
No, I was just going to say, I'm finding what's going on in this postseason very refreshing. I'm learning more about LeBron. He seemingly wants to talk about how he's gotten here because more people want to ask him about it. So I didn't know that. I would never, I just didn't know that he was so aware, like you said, of where he is in his career now, of where he was, and how much he has changed his game. Usually when you're that talented, you don't have the wherewithal to want to change your game, to take it to the next level.
And typically guys change their game because their body has demanded it.
Exactly.
So, like, when Michael Jordan came back from his first retirement, after he won the 3 rings, then he went to go play baseball, when he came back, he was still far and away the best basketball player in the world. But he was no longer the best clear-cut, raw athlete in the NBA. He was older, he'd been away from the game. And he came back with that mid-range turnaround that was not a huge part of his game before, and it became the signature of his game for those final 3 rings. He evolved because his body demanded it. LeBron is showing us that athletically, he is, 90% of what he was 10 years ago. That as far as stamina, he is as good as he's ever been. And he is now just adding new layers to what he can do. I do think I don't want to say turning point, but I think the biggest moment was not just defeat, but a defeat that was, CeCe, that defeat was on him. It's one thing to lose. It's another thing to lose because you, in Game 5, have 8 points in the finals, when the moment's too big for you, and when your teammates step up and you don't. That level.
I think the biggest thing for LeBron was when he left Cleveland. And he faced all the criticism, and at that point he realized after a year where people tried to make him the villain, he tried to be the villain, he came back and said, you know something, I'm not that guy. I'm not going to be that guy. That was before Dallas. That's what I believe changed his career.
All right, we're going to change gears here a little bit, talk about the NFL. Antonio Callaway was drafted in the 4th round by the Cleveland Browns after a tumultuous 3 years at the University of Florida. However, division rival Antonio Brown has decided to take a mentorship role in his life. Both wide receivers are from the Miami area, and Callaway reportedly reached out to Brown for advice on how to transition to the NFL. Speaking of wide receivers and mentoring and some of that other stuff, CC, how beneficial can Brown's mentorship be for Callaway?
It's tremendous. And because a lot of young players, too, when they have some type of adversity, they've been through what Antonio's been through, not Brown, Callaway, but he's been through as far as the drug uses, the suspensions, the disappointment in college. It's hard for people outside for them to trust him. And I know he'll trust Antonio Brown. They have some of the same stories as far as where they came from. Callaway grew up in Miami, went to Booker T. Washington, went on to take his talent to Gainesville in the state of Florida. Now, Antonio, he wasn't heavily recruited. Undersized. You know, he went to the MAC conference to cut his teeth. Wasn't a high-round draft pick. So the Cleveland Browns, they let you know. When they spend the 4th round, you know, I say this all the time with reference to the draft. I was first-team All-American. I went in the 4th round. So the Cleveland Browns, they must feel an awful lot about Callaway as far as what he can do. And Antonio Brown is doing what a lot of players have done in the league, and that's a brotherhood. We're going to look after the younger players. We're going to try to expose them to things so that they can walk down the path that we've gone down, so they can be successful on their job. The best training is being trained or mentored by someone who has done it and someone who doesn't want anything from you. So that trust factor is there. I think it's tremendous. I'm not surprised by Antonio. There's people don't know Antonio because he looks flashy. They would think that, oh, he'd be a guy that would be in trouble, but no. He doesn't drink.
Antonio Brown
doesn't drink, doesn't smoke. Now, he had the Facebook stuff, but he's a great guy, takes care of his body. I would argue if there's someone in better shape than him in the NFL, I would argue with you about that.
So I'm going to tell a story that I don't know if I have a license to tell when I'm telling it anyway. It's from one of the very first times you and I had spent a lot of time together. It was the Super Bowl in Houston, so 2 Super Bowls ago. It was right after Antonio had done the Facebook Live. Right? That was the playoff where Antonio does the Facebook Live. CC and I are getting ready to either go on a show or do something, I'm not sure. And Antonio is walking through Radio Row. And CC puts the microphone down, runs over to him, says something to him, comes back over. And I asked him, I was like, what was that about? He's like, I told him to call me. Like, I told him to call me. He's got a lot going on, all this talent, and he maybe needs a little maintenance. And so when I saw now that, because Antonio really, aside, I know he had the one sideline blow up, but like that stuff you guys know doesn't bother me that much. He's stayed out of the negative spotlight in large part since then. And to see him now taking on that type of mentorship or leadership role for a guy that's not even a teammate of his. Just a guy he thinks, listen, drafted in a similar position as me, similar size as me, by the way, maybe some similar skill sets. Not saying this guy's going to be Antonio Brown. To take him under his wing like that, I think it's great. I think it's awesome, and it made me think of when you reached out to him, which is something you didn't have to do.
Yeah, it's part of the thing we talked about. We talked about Ben. You know, what's he going to do with the backup quarterbacks there? But it's a part of the league that's very, very important. If we're going to keep playing football, if football is going to be the American pastime and pro football, then we're going to have guys being mentored, because it doesn't make sense for us to have made mistakes and for us to keep our mistakes to ourselves compared to sharing them and give these kids the potential to be able to live out their potential, because that's what this is about. And the more information that he can get, the more he'll be equipped to be successful at his job.
Just real quick, one question about Callaway, not the Brown part of this. For Antonio Callaway, he missed a year of college football in part because of credit card. He got cited for a credit card violation, stolen credit card, but also marijuana possession. And then you test positive at the combine for a diluted sample, theoretically because of marijuana. He seems to have an issue with that. Some guys can handle that. He seems to have an issue with that. What advice would you give him, Antonio Callaway, not football, but related to that?
Listen to the guys around you. Between Antonio Brown and Josh Gordon's going to be on the team with him, he's got to listen to him. And he's got to be able to give it up if you want to play in the league. You can smoke the rest of your life. But if he wants to play in the NFL, he's not going to be able to smoke. It's just an easy decision.
Okay.
All right. Big story yesterday out of the NFL. Jason Witten retiring. Coming up, does Witten's retirement impact Dak Prescott? Next on First Things First.